So here we are today. I'm Paul Linsell, and today I'm talking to Greg Dolan, the CEO of Keen. Keen are, well, Greg will tell you himself briefly in a moment, but they are a very important marketing technology and automation company. And of course, I've been sitting in this world of marketing for, well, longer than I care to remember, but been around the block a few times and seen a few things come up and down the track. Of course, the big intro, I suppose, before we start hearing from Greg, is that famously Henry Ford said, well, I know half of my advertising works, I just don't know which half. And of course, things have progressed massively since then. Everything in the world of marketing, we think, is measurable, but that's not quite the truth of the matter. So, Greg, do you want to say hi to everybody who's watching? And then I'm going to, if I may, I've got a few really interesting topical questions to ask you in our interview today.
Sounds great. Great to be with you, Paul. So I've probably been around marketing as long as you have. So I started my marketing career back in the late 90s, and I was a brand manager in the consumer packaged goods space. And I had that question, right? So which part of my marketing is working? And honestly, it was a lot easier back then. You had some traditional channels, you had your TV, print, radio, and then all of a sudden digital came on, and you have all this media fragmentation, and it got even more difficult to figure out what was working and what was not. And unfortunately at the time, and this was in the the early 2000s, I was still reliant on a traditional consultative marketing mix. And it wasn't giving me any information around what decision I need to make next, right? And that's what I was being challenged with. I had P&L responsibility, I had a big budget, and felt like there weren't really any good tools to leverage data to make decisions and tie those decisions to financial outcomes. And that's really why I started Keen with my technical co-founder, John Busbus, who had been doing marketing analytics consulting for a decade. We thought that this space around marketing mix was ripe for disruption. We were early to the game. So 2009, we kicked off Keen and started the company and started building our solution. And really what was meant to take information at real time and not just help to measure the past, but more importantly, start to guide decision-making. So if I have to hit a revenue target, what is the optimal plan? And how do I account for changes in the marketplace in real time to be able to make better decisions? Because as we know, over the last couple of years, it's been even more challenging with a pandemic, 100-year pandemic we've never experienced before. And now the after effects of that with inflation and supply chain and all the challenges that marketers are facing. So all of those decisions need to be made in the context of what's happening in the external world. So we're a next generation marketing mix solution that's grounded in software that allows marketers to leverage data as it becomes available through machine learning to make better decisions looking forward.
That's so of the moment, isn't it? And increasingly so. And so, look, Greg, we're entering this year, and it's all across the world, into this extraordinary period of economic and indeed social volatility. It's occurring around the globe. It's happening in the USA, but the USA has some protective measures around it. For instance, fuel self-sufficiency and so on and so forth. In Europe, it's really rocking society, and everybody's talking about the cost of living, the disposable income. We've got the new dynamics of demand. We've got elements of risk. People are talking about affordability. So it's disrupting retail markets. It's disrupting professional markets. So, what just broadly, perhaps you'd like to riff a bit on how you see this is really going to bring up really priority challenges for chief marketing officers and marketing departments around the world. Have a go at that.
Absolutely. And, we talk a lot about the fact that today's marketers have not managed the business through a recession, right? So I managed, I was running the V8 portfolio at Campbell Soup Company during the Great Recession. And I can honestly say the first reaction when you don't have information is to panic, right? And the knee-jerk reaction is to always, when you're getting questions, is just to cut what's not measurable, right? So it's always, let's cut marketing because we know we can cut it. Let's start with non-working, then we can work over to working, and then move all the dollars over to trade and price promote and really degrade our brand. Right. That was the playbook before. And I think now going into this one, no recession looks the same. Obviously, we have, to your point, social unrest. We have war. We have, the after effects of a pandemic, as I was talking about before. And all of those things have to be accounted for and measured. And that's the context for the decisions that marketers need to make. So if you're not able to dimensionalize and contextualize the external environment, you end up making bad decisions, right? You end up doing harm to the brand by cutting. Again, the knee-jerk reaction is to cut. In reality, we know that, and we can quantify this in our system, that the folks that will maintain some level of spending will be at a competitive advantage when the economy gets better, right? So but it's really finding the right amount of spend in the right areas to sustain the business during this time. And you have to be able to quantify all those external factors. So a system like ours is designed to, basically incorporate all these external challenges as variables, and then you can model around that and simulate based on how those impacts are affecting your business.
Well, and that's a very interesting point, isn't it? Because we know, well, you and I both know, because we've been around the block a few times, and we have seen this kind of economic maelstrom happen before, and we know very well from our experience, and you've touched on it already, that chief executives don't always see the importance of continuing to invest in marketing through a recession to come out with competitive advantage the other side. So tell us a little bit more about, maybe a little bit more granular example about, the analytics, the ability to measure effect that you're working with your clients through the system, in order to help them convince their organization that every dollar spent is going in the right place.
Absolutely. And we often talk about, we've been doing this since the onset of COVID a couple of years ago, where we jumped into action pretty quickly, and we started incorporating the impacts of the changes we were seeing in the market in real time. Part of what makes our solution really unique and different and value added for organizations is because we actually account for the timing impact of marketing as well. So we can actually show the layers of rock building as marketing is invested in the business, and how that decays over time. So basically, we're decomposing the base in a way that shows marketing's ongoing impact to the business. So we often, with all of our clients, start with, okay, here's what happens if you decide to just stop marketing, right? So it's all of your volume is going to decay over a certain amount of time, and then it's going to cost you twice as much to re-enter the market and start to support the business. And we can quantify that all in our system. So being able to show a marketer that, arming a marketer with that information to be able to go have a conversation in an educated way with a CFO and a CEO, where it's not talking about awareness or brand health or any of those kind of marketing related KPIs. You're actually talking about dollars and cents, which is what the rest of the C-suite is talking about. It's what the CFO and the CEO is talking to the street about.
And is that okay? You can monetize the outcomes, if you see what I mean. Yes, exactly what you're saying. But clearly, brand values in the marketplace are critically important, and we know that you can't just look at something that has a direct line to a sale, but clearly everything's related. And this decomposition allows you to attribute those brand values as well, does it?
Correct. That's exactly what we're doing. So, and we're leveraging more than just time series data, which is what a traditional marketing mix would use. So we're grounded in Bayesian regression. So we have a proprietary database that we call the marketing elasticity engine, which is about 40 years of marketing elasticities from academic journals, as well as 13 years of metadata coming out of our system. And that's a learning system. So every new data point that comes in, we're learning about the impact of TikTok on certain brands and a GRP of TV connected versus linear. All of those pieces are being fed in. So the marketer is actually starting with that information in our model. So out of the gates, they're getting the best industry information possible.
So that's usually value. You're giving them the knowledge base to start from.
Right.
The grounds. Yeah. Mm.
And then we can actually adjust our marketing elasticity engine with any information that they have. So if they've done MTA or previous marketing mix or lift studies or copy effectiveness tests, all that can be used to adjust our elasticity. So we're bringing the full knowledge estate for the brand and from our system into the decision, right? And then we're bringing in the time series data that a traditional marketing mix would have. And each one of those data points is informing the coefficient in the direction of the data signal. So that allows us to infer performance across different channels, account for the external factors, and start to tie that directly to the outcomes that we're seeing in the marketplace, and do it in a repeatable way where we're building confidence and actually showing the marketer, hey, this is what we said the forecast would be. Here's what we said the ROIs would be. And then we're actualizing those results as they become available.
Yeah. Yeah. In other words, you're constantly testing your modeling against in real time, future events as they occur, and refining as you go along. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Tell me a little bit as well, and again, perhaps illustrating with the real life experience of the last few years that you've seen. I mean, there's a great deal of talk in the marketplace, in the marketing marketplace, about this enormous channel proliferation that we have seen, and fragmentation that we've seen, particularly over the last 10 years. Because actually, if we think back to the last recession, back in the 2007, 8, 9 period, even since then, there's been a massive expansion in available promotional channels for organizations. And so tell us a little bit about the experience and how to cope with that, and just sort of thinking about the people that you're dealing with and how they need to be enabled to manage that in massive fragmentation.
I call it the roaring 20s. I have this great slide where I kind of showed the beginning of my career again, where we had a couple channels that we had, and we struggled with that, right? And then we had the digital, and then we have all the in-store activation and promotion that was going on. Now we have retail media and every other kind of digital channel that's emerging across the continuum. And the fact of the matter is, you can't make human decisions with that many decisions that need to be made now on a shorter time frame as well, right? So we're not buying upfronts; we're actually optimizing as we go, and it's impossible to do without the right data that's organized in the right way, and a system technology that can help to analyze it quickly and guide a decision. And that's what we're seeing and advising our clients, and we're starting to see it take hold in the marketplace. I had a Fortune 500 CMO mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago that she wanted 80% of her decisions being automated on her team over the next 5 years, right? So we're starting to see, how do we start to leverage ad tech, martech in a way that's constantly it creates this ecosystem and creates this feedback loop where data is being fed in. There's automated decisions driven by machine learning that feeds into execution, and then you can constantly learn from it. So I say the marketers can then focus on the fun stuff that we all like to do as marketers. So creative development, positioning, and strategy versus the analytics and the math. We can leave that up to the computer.
So it's a very interesting point, isn't it? Because you and I both know that across the development of the variety of marketing automation and advanced analytic tools that we've seen coming along, of which you're a leading example, there is some concern, and there has been talk amongst the people whose marketing brains we would admire, that you can't just go black box. You still are trying to enhance the core people skills that sit at the center of this. Talk a bit about, again, with your system and your clientele, that process of bringing together people. I mean, do you need to change people's skills? Give us a good riff on that one.
It's a changing profile of who you need within that system, right? So you don't necessarily need, I hate to say this out loud, but it's true, you don't need the data scientists that are doing bespoke custom modeling, on a daily, weekly basis. You don't need the consultative approach if you have trust in the algorithms. So you transition from having the need for data scientists to folks who can train algorithms and understand how they work and be able to explain them. in a way that actually trains and QCs them over time, right? So my business partner and I, co-founder and I, talk about this all the time, that's going to be the shift, right? So we need to get people to trust the algorithms. They work, believe me. We see them in every part of our life today. And once we have that trust, it then creates, okay, who do we need to be able to manage this ecosystem? And that's a different skill set than what current marketing departments look like today. So it is a true change management effort. And, we have a customer maturity model that we execute in our client success and account management system, where we go where the marketer is and where the organization is, and then we try to drive that change over time. So here's who you need to support this type of ecosystem. How do we think about it strategically based on the decisions that you need to make? What data then do we strategically need to feed in to make it all work? It's not just about data acquisition. It's, there's more data out there than we need. It's about having the right data to guide the right decision within that ecosystem and drive that feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you approach the market on an as a service basis, which is, of course, extremely attractive to many people, many organizations that will want to work with you. But often there's the business of you were talking about, that confidence level is breaking through to full adoption. And I know of a number of instances where emerging technologies or services start to approach the people who are not yet working with them on a sort of champion challenger basis, where you'll go and say, look, we'll come and prove ourselves. Is that what you find with your new engagements, the new clients? And tell me a bit about that.
So we provide value on day one. So we don't offer anything for free, but we do suggest that we start small with our clients. So if we may be working with a big enterprise Fortune 500 company, but we'll start with one brand, and we're able to validate and show the ROI in our system. So as we're thinking about this recession, I always talk about, I know you're going to cut the non-working dollars first, and software fits in that, right? But there's other non-working dollars in there. There's agency fees, agency proliferation. In a lot of cases, you have other research that you want to fund. So I say push off the focus group and focus on the investments in the technology that can deliver a short-term ROI and help you to ruthlessly prioritize your spending. And that's what we're doing. We're helping to really guide that and make sure that the investments are in the right place in the short term, because that's ultimately what's going to help get you through a difficult period like we're facing right now.
Absolutely. Now, when a relatively newer proposition in the world of marketing automation is being discussed and talked about and being presented to the market, people often think, well, where is this company going and what's its ambitions? And I think everybody who's listening to this would be interested. We've learned a little bit about the start of the company. What's your future vision?
We want to be the software that guides marketers' decisions across the globe. I mean, we want to be big. We're a startup with a beard, I like to say now, but we're scaling, and I think the market's maturing in a way that's going to really benefit us. So death of cookies, we're not modeling at that level. We use a totally different approach, which I think is going to better fit the marketer's needs into the future. So we have high ambitions and aspirations to continue to grow and help marketers build value. We say that we're trying to prove the value of marketing in terms of shareholder value, and that's what we're demonstrating. So we want to bridge that gap between the CMO and the rest of the C-suite and really demonstrate that marketing can drive value and do that in a quantifiable way.
Yes. So presumably that means that eventually you'd like yourselves to be a hallmark of corporate value that's recognized by Wall Street or Singapore or London or wherever in that way. Is that right?
That's right. Exactly. So we're we've always had lofty ambitions. So this is just a continuation of that.
If you look at the marketplace, very good. If you look at the marketplace again from a credibility and believability point of view, and I may not be accurate with it. I'm just throwing this across the line. Are you suitable for every sort of organization? Or perhaps I should better ask that by saying, are there certain sweet spots where you talk about advertiser size, sector, marketplace? Who should be out there who's not yet dealing with, working with you and having the advantage, who should be saying to themselves, if we don't get into bed with these guys, we're going to really, really lose out in our markets?
It's a great question. So we about 90% of our business is still in consumer packaged goods, but we've built the system to be industry agnostic, data agnostic, and we've started to drive business in new verticals: QSR, consumer services, financial services. And really what we're tackling is a pervasive problem across all industries. So it becomes a choice. So where do we see the biggest opportunity? And that's where we're putting our efforts. But we do see ourselves as someone who can solve this for different business models. We actually run models for our own marketing, or a B2B software. So it's applicable to any business, any challenge where marketers need to deploy marketing resources and understand impact.
So you drink your own Kool-Aid, in other words.
We drink our own Kool-Aid. Yep, absolutely.
If you looked around the world of MarTech, clearly you're doing a marvelous thing with your customers, and they love you, and may you gain many more as quickly as possible. But it'd be interesting for our listeners just to hear, across the MarTech space, there are other areas of excellence. Are there any that you would, before we finish up, that you would highlight as worth, as well as yourselves, clearly yourselves first, that the modern marketer should be looking at?
So I'll stick with the consumer insights kind of market research space. I'm a big fan of those who take old kind of consultative models that are really expensive and time consuming and disrupt them. So, Suzy would be a company that I would have, market research as a consumer insights folks look at. They're doing the same thing that we're trying to do for marketing mix across other consumer insights. So trying to drive as much automation and technology in developing insights for brands through a number of different mechanisms. The folks that are doing shoppable media, like McMax of the world, are doing a fantastic job, and we see an opportunity there to partner with folks like that, where we can start to guide decisions, and even at an lower level, more granular level, also tied directly to first party data that brands can start to capture. So anywhere there's, we're trying to change the relationship with the consumer, build leverage for the brand, make them more efficient, are areas that I think are going to be, big growth areas going forward.
No, that's great. Well, look, one last thing, and then we'll finish up. Tell the folks out there, we're going through a period of big change, big volatility, probably got a big old recession to deal with over the next couple of years. When we come out the other side, tell me a couple of things to finish up with that you think will have kind of changed for good.
I think e-commerce and changing retail relationship with the consumer is going to change for good. We're seeing it across our client base, where the mix of kind of brick and mortar retail shopping versus e-com is starting to shift, and we have some of our clients that are looking to have the majority of their business funneling through e-commerce in the future. I think that's what marketers need to be prepared for coming out of the this recession, because consumer shopping behavior is changing. And we talked specifically about the CPG world. The marketers are going to have to figure out how to efficiently change their supply chain, their go-to-market, their relationship with consumers to start to embrace this new behavior.
Brilliant. So that was me, Paul Linsall, talking to Greg Dolan of Keen. Thank you so much, Greg. Been a great thing. Let's hope that when people see this, they cannot but beat a path to your door.
Paul, I really appreciate the opportunity. Great talking to you.